Okay, we are recording the webinar, starting right now.
Okay.
Welcome, Christine. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Lots of people coming on board. All right, well, we'll give it another 30 seconds.
Hi, Kim Wallach here from Parent Network of Western New York.
Great. Glad you're here.
So today we are not muting anybody, even though the slide says we will be muting you, but we are not because we have some technical difficulties in the past. So please use *6 to mute yourself. And if you need to unmute to say something, use *6 again. And please lower the speaker in your computers to avoid feedback. And again, write the name of your parent center, your state, and etc. And use the chat box to ask any questions or to interact with anybody else.
Okay. Shall we start?
We're ready to go now.
Okay, here we go. All right. I'm Lisa Küpper, and I'm here with this CPIR staff to talk to you today about writing for the web. And we're very glad you're here. Thank you for coming. The first thing we'd like to do is do a little poll, and hopefully you can respond to this on your computers. And it sort of sets the stage for what we're going to be talking about and why it might be relevant to you. Okay, here's the first one. Does your center plan to update or revise its website in the coming months? And as you can see, you have a bunch of choices. Yes, you're going to do some, you're going to redesign, you're going to do a brand new website. No, you don't have any such plans. Okay, let's see where we're going here. It looks like most of you are thinking about doing some updating. And so I am going to, if I can, end the poll. Everybody in? Vote now. Okay. As you can see, just about more than half of you are doing some updating and about 20% are going to be working on a redesign. And those are big undertakings. So this is why writing for the web can be something very useful, this webinar. Okay, let me figure out how to move on to the next poll. Okay, come on, go away. Hang with me. Doggone it. Now this one corresponds to who puts the content on your website. We all have different ways of getting the content up there, and some are more efficient than others. So that's wonderful. I love these results. As I'm sure you all know, if you have a consultant do it, it can take some extra time, whereas if you have staff at the center who do it or one designated person, it becomes hopefully more streamlined. Okay, everybody got their vote in? I'm going to end the poll. Well, that's quite a few. Can you all see that? I hope you can. That 52% have several staff people at the center who put the content up, and 39% of you have one designated staff person. Okay, let me make this go away. That's really helpful to know. Okay, now Indira, I guess this goes away and I share my screen? Okay, give me a minute here. All righty. See if we can get our technology together.
Perfectly, Lisa.
Okay. Whoops. And I got to go backwards. Hold on a minute. All right. Let me know when it launches.
We see it. Okay, let's dig in.
Okay, let's dig in. This webinar is largely based upon the research that we did at Niche about writing for the web. We had a whole dissemination initiative and really dug into the research that's been done about how to help how people read on the web, because it's different from how we read, let's say, a book or an article that we have in print. And here, I refer you to this. It's a suite of pages on the hub that was transferred over from Niche and updated. And you can see the link at the bottom. It's basically divided into 6 areas: understanding how people read on the web, helping them skim and scan, learning how to put your most important message first, right away, so they see it right away, how to chunk your information so it's easier for people to read and digest and get the point, some really good tips on what research has found about using headers and subheadings, so people can quickly see what your content is about. And then, of course, writing in plain language, which is always a good thing to do. All right. So the first question becomes, how do people read on the web? And the answer is that they don't. That was really shocking to find out. And the implications of that, or what they found, especially a man named Jakob Nielsen, did a lot of eye tracking research, is that when people come to your website, they scan and they skim, they look for keywords, they look at the page in an F stroke, which I'll show you in a minute. And if they don't see something that catches their attention, if they don't see a keyword that corresponds to what they're looking for, they're gone, like lightning. And so it's very important to catch them while they're there by the way you design your web pages. All right. Jakob Nielsen, you can see there at the bottom his website. He's now with a Nielsen group. When I first started reading him, it was just him, but he did a lot of eye tracking research. So he'd sit somebody down in front of the computer and show them various things and, technologically monitor where their eyes went. And they follow this F stroke. Can you see the F stroke? It's really, really evident in the middle picture, where they sweep vertically down to across. Well, actually, they sweep across horizontally and then across horizontally, and then they sweep the left margin down. And what he found is that people who are looking at stuff on the web, they tend to notice things on the left side. They especially look at the first paragraph and the first words in the paragraph. When they look at headers, they tend to look at like 2 or 3 words in the header, and basically they're on a mission. They come to your website because they have a task they're trying to accomplish or information they're trying to find. And if they don't see something there that catches their, matches their purpose, they will immediately leave. They can be gone in a nanosecond. More from his research shows us that, now that's a newspaper, and this terminology comes from sort of the newspaper biz, looking above the fold. But consider that your computer screen. What is immediately visible when you go to a website? That's above the fold, whatever it is you can see there, without scrolling. He found that when users will spend 69% of their time on the left side of the page, and 80% of the time they're looking above the fold. They don't scroll. So if they don't scroll, they will scroll scroll down if you make it easy for them to see what the content on the page is, and that content somehow matches their question or their purpose.
Lisa?
Yeah?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is Indira. Do you want to answer questions right now? There are some questions.
Okay, no, I'll answer them right now. Let's see.
Okay. So the first one is from Brock Lee, and it's, do you think parents who have a newly diagnosed child read in an F-stroke? And I guess
it's not that they read in an F-stroke. It's that when they first come to your website, whatever, they scan it in an F-stroke, and by sweeping across horizontally, they're looking for something. So yes, I think that when they parents who have just had a child diagnosed, they're going to be looking for something that corresponds to that. So when they do the first swipe across and then the second swipe across, maybe they're looking for a keyword or services or help for my baby or something like that, some kind of keyword or trigger, and then they sweep down the left to see they're still looking for that kind of thing. If they find it, then they dig in. So yes, they will probably be using the F-stroke. They don't read. Once they start reading, they're not going to really read in the F-stroke. They're looking to see whether there's something of interest and importance on this page for them, which is why they scan with this F-stroke. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
She said yes.
There are more questions.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Then Brock also asks, are parents looking for info on their child's disability?
Are they looking for information on their child's disability? Oh, yes. I think the parents are astoundingly on that job. The more it depends on where they are if they've just found out that their child has X disability, they probably would come to your website, and if you had either a search box, they might enter the term in there, or they might look to see if there were some obvious link to information about disabilities. And yes, they do definitely. Once they start reading, they will read. I think parents in that sense are a lot different from people who are just cruising for information and want to find a particular answer to something. Parents have a deep and abiding reason to dig as deep as they can go. So they're a little different, but they're also very busy. So if they have a specific question that they're looking for an answer, they're on a mission to find that. So, they definitely will read more deeply. Anything else?
There's another question from Angela. Angela from New Jersey, she's asking if the F-stroke applies to looking on a device as well as a computer.
Oh, that's a fascinating question. And we're not going to go into that because one of the things, the next iteration, let us say, of this writing for the web is going to be talking about designing for mobile, because mobile devices are changing everything. According to, and as a matter of fact, one of the next slides will answer that question in part. People still do the same thing, but with the F-stroke, and it doesn't. And they definitely read above the fold on a device. It doesn't matter the size of the screen or whatever. The sort of way people approach it is still the same because they're still doing the same thing. They're looking for a keyword or something that triggers an answer, or maybe a search for their question. I think probably one of our future webinars will talk about mobile devices and how when you build your website, you need to build in a responsive design so that it is also useful on a mobile device. But for now, let's just think traditional websites. I'm sorry, Angela. I would love to be able to answer your question, but it's really complicated. But you just need to be aware, I think, when you're designing your website needs to be mobile friendly, and that will cover a multitude of sins, hopefully. Okay, anything else?
Yes, there's a question from D. Does this also apply regardless of literacy level?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Indira?
Yes. Does this apply regardless of literacy level?
Yes, it does. In fact, literacy, doing this, some of the suggestions that we're going to give you are the most extraordinarily helpful to people with low literacy because it boils it down to your essential message. And the more you can manipulate information for people who don't read very well in a number of ways, that, including infographics, that gives them the essential message that you want to communicate without having to wade through like dense text, because they're not going to. They're going to be gone. Anything else? Okay, let's look at the implications.
Lisa, I just have a comment, Lisa. I guess the F will be reversed in those languages that read on the opposite direction as we do. I assume, like Arabic.
Oh, that's something I never thought about. Yes, I guess, yeah, I would assume so. I have no idea what the research says about that because I guess Jakob Nielsen and the others that are doing this are looking at people reading in English or people reading web that are in languages that move from left to right. That's a fascinating question.
Okay.
Okay, back to the idea of how important it is what you have above the fold. The implications of the fact that users read, spend most of 80% of their time looking above the fold, which means the first thing they can see without scrolling, means you have to put the most important information first. And this directly contradicts the way we were all taught to write. I mean, I was taught to write that you have this opening paragraph, and it's really nice, and everybody can sit down and relax and feel safe, and then you sort of build into your topic. No, forget it. Forget the nice intro. Get to the point. And keep your headers and your links against the left margin, because people spend almost 70% of their time looking down the left margin. So they will see them there. They will see the headers. They will see your links. They need to see the information of the reason that that page exists on your site immediately. Put it above the fold. Okay, now, one of the really interesting things to come out of this is called the inverted pyramid. And it captures how to write for the web by turning the pyramid upside down. And you can see by this graphic that you want to help your visitors get to the point of the page fast. And so you have to load that first paragraph with your most essential message. So at the top of the pyramid, which is actually probably above the fold, is your main point. And then you can support your point with underneath of that. And then the background history and less essential knowledge goes at the end. And that may be just what would be nice for people to know. But get to the point. Now, this is the example, Angela, I was talking about from Jakob Nielsen about the fold and the size of the screen, which relates to mobile. This is an example to show you how he has totally changed the design of his articles and website based upon his research. You see the summary he put there right at the very beginning? Get to the point. Tell people what this page is about. And then you can launch into your article. And as he says, screen sizes are constantly shifting, and designs can respond to these sizes. So when you talk about putting content above the fold, does it make sense anymore? And he says, yes, it does. It still exists, and it still applies. So I guess that's good to know. But I would think on a mobile device, above the fold is considerably less real estate than a computer screen. Okay, helping people scan. Whoop, don't know why that happened. Helping your readers skim and scan. Here's a list of some tips. Include a table of contents. State your most important information right away. Use short paragraphs. Chunk your content, in other words. Put only one main idea in the paragraph and use a lot of bold headings and subheadings. The question about parents who've just found out that their child has a disability and they are looking for information about that disability, for parents like that, table of contents is really, really useful. And there's some examples in this PowerPoint of what I mean by that, which allows parents or anyone really reading, if they're looking for a particular point, to see right at the top if your page includes that information. So here, let's say, is an example. It comes from the hub. It's an overview of early intervention, and as you can see, the first the point of the page is right at the very beginning, and then there's a table of contents. So let us say that the parent is either just found out that the child has a developmental disability, a delay, or is worried about it. They can look at that table of contents and see, maybe their question is, who pays for it? And they can click on that and drop right to the information that they're looking for. So it speeds them on their way, rather than leave them reading the whole thing to see if they can find that information, which most people will not do. They'll be gone. So I hope it's clear here how a table of contents can help a reader skim and scan and then get to the information without leaving. Now, this example is kind of embarrassing. I'm going to throw us under the bus here. I went to the Wayback Machine. I don't know if y'all know about that. It's where you can go back and look at previous iterations of your website or someone else's website. And this was as far back as I could get to Niche, because believe me, there were ones that were much more horrifying than this one. But on the left, you can see how we were writing in 2008. You see how dense it is? It's just like so solid. You just want to run away. It has an itty-bitty table of contents, which is still helpful. Because if you wanted to know the characteristics, let's say, of severe or multiple, you would just click on characteristics. But this isn't very helpful. Now, the one on the right is the redesign of this fact sheet when we moved it from Niche to CPIR. And while it is lacking, let's say, a solid paragraph at the beginning, like maybe 2 or 3 sentences that says what this is about, you can look at the table of contents and say, oh, okay, tips for parents, let me click on that. Or if I'm a teacher, tips for teachers, click on that. And you could hone in on content depending on your interest. And if none of these things appeal to you, if it isn't what you were looking for, you're gone. It's not there, and you move on, which is okay. I mean, you want to help your users get to what they're looking for.
Yeah, Lisa, okay, there's a question from Brooke. There's a question before you go to the next one.
Okay.
Table of contents on each page, it seems?
Each content page, I would say, unless it's something very, very brief. Or the more complicated and full of information, the better it is to put some sort of table of contents. Not every page I know at Niche or at CPIR has a table of contents. It really kind of depended upon what the content was. And I've certainly visited a lot of websites where the pages are actually very short. I mean, it may be a paragraph, and that's the page. You don't need a table of contents for that. I actually find those pages kind of irritating because it took me time to click and go there and the page to load, and then there's like nothing unless it's something, really incredible. So yeah, I'm a big fan of table of contents if the document, if you can structure, we'll get to that in a minute about the table of contents and headers, you can structure it in such a way that it really helps your user read and follow along their trail of information. In fact, this right here, the front load, what's on the screen, front load headings with keywords, that is a really, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but that is really useful because if people are looking for keywords, let's say the parents who just found out and they want to know how to get their child evaluated, or local therapists, or whatever, if those words are in the heading, that's a keyword for them. And they see it, and they might click on it or go there and read. So make your headings meaningful and front load them. Put the keywords up first, because remember, when people read, they read from the left, and they only might read or sort of see the first two or three words. So if the keyword is in that position, they will see it, hopefully. Okay, and then here's another thing, if I can make it move. Why are you not continuing? Oh, yeah. This, using bullets, numbered lists, and numerals, is very helpful to low literacy readers because when you use bullets and numbered lists, they're usually much more abbreviated in text, and especially if it involves, like, say, a process. Do this, 1, 2, 3. It is much more to the point. It's much easier to skim and scan, and it's very, very useful pulling essential things down to big things down to just a few major points. Now, the numerals I found very interesting because it kind of goes against my grain, but the recommendation is not to spell out numbers anymore, but to use the actual number. So in other words, I have 5 points. Do I put I have FIVE points, or do I put I have the number 5 points? And the recommendation is to use the 5, because the number 5, because you see it so fast, and it's not a word. It's a symbol that we all know. But that, I leave that to your discretion, and because it really violates that deep set thing about if it's from 1 to 10, you spell it out. Anyway, okay, another hint about helping them readers scan, is don't center text on your page, because they're looking along the left margin, and they might not even see the text in the middle. So keep everything flushed, all your headers and such like that, flush to the left margin. And make your links meaningful. Now, here's an example. The first one is kind of what you see a lot of. To see pictures of Skeletor, click here. So when you mouse over the click here, all you see, is the link. But if you, say, see pictures of Skeletor, people can immediately see if they click on that link, what's going to happen. They're going to go see pictures of Skeletor. Does anybody know who Skeletor is? I don't know. But a lot of people do. It's a common, I think, mistake to say, to read more about it, click here. It's not very explanatory or meaningful. Okay, and the last point here is to test your site with a few users. We did this a lot at Niche, and it's really helpful to have a user sit there and give them a task and watch how they try and accomplish it. You'll be amazed at the number of ways people will tackle the same task. And one of the things we found, excuse me, I have to take a sip of water. One of the things we found, which was incredibly obvious, was like, oh, duh, was that we should alphabetize things. If you have a list of things, like publications, titles, whatever, alphabetize them because people then can find stuff more easily. And it just like it had never occurred to us. We were kind of going in chronological order. What came out first and then next and then next. Once you get a certain amount of, let's say, resources or materials on your website, it's more helpful to users to alphabetize them. Okay, here are the tips about headings. And this also comes from the writing in plain language genre of thinking. Make your headers into questions that your users ask, and phrase it like a question, like they're speaking. Where can I have my child evaluated? And then the answer would be as if you were answering. You can have your child evaluated at ... You can see this a lot in health materials that are being produced now, they basically frame things in that way where it's the patient asking the question, so it uses the word I or my or our, and then the answer is given as you. So it makes it very personal. Also, a tip about writing headers is to make them into action statements, especially using verbs, because verbs are very action-oriented. Find help for your child. Know your rights. You know, they impel people to in a direction. And here's another example. Consider starting with a keyword. Now, you could write a header like, well, I have to pay for these services. In this example, the keyword was put first, cost. Well, I have to pay for these. So if they're skimming down the left side, they see cost. That's the keyword. And they can snap on to the rest of the question and say, oh, I did have a question about cost. Okay, back to the inverted pyramid. And let me see how much time we have. Oh, we're cruising along. Okay, there's the lead. And that's the most important point of the page. Here are some suggestions about how to make good leads. Keep them short, 1 to 2 sentences, short sentences, in fact. Load them with keywords, information-carrying keywords like cost, where, words that are very relevant to the kind of questions your users might have. And then, like with the table of contents, help your readers see whether this web page has the information they're looking for, something relevant to their need or concern. Because then they will continue to read and they will scroll. If they don't see it right away, they're gone. And I'd be interested to know how many of you, when you look at yourselves and how you read on the web, how true any of this is in your web reading behavior. I mean, if you're there just kind of looking around, you know, because you're curious and have time on your hands, I think we probably do it a little bit differently than if we're really on a mission and we're looking for an answer. When I shut this PowerPoint off, I'm going to ask you all to raise your hands. Let's have a little self-reflection on this. Okay, here's the body. That's where you support your lead and give the rest of the next most important information to people in the descending order of importance. Because remember, people fly away. And here are some tips. You know, and again, it's things I've already said. You make it easy for them to scan, put a table of contents, divide things up into really distinct sections that are marked by headers. Use content words. Keep things short. Paragraphs. I hate seeing that. Long paragraphs. I can't stand seeing that on the web. It's like, oh, I can't read that. And give bulleted lists. I find it's very interesting with blogs because blogs seem to violate all of these premises of how you should be doing this to make it easy to read. It's like just one gigantic run-on sentence. It's the way it looks. I'm surprised that people read them because they really are difficult to read. Okay, here's the end. That's where the least important information goes. What you think would be nice for readers to know? Jakob Nielsen says, you can count yourself lucky if they get that far, but actually if you've managed to embed the things that help them skim and scan and move down the page, a lot of them will. And so you should tuck some nice little juicy nugget at the end. That would vary depending on your content, but that, just don't fizzle out. Put some little juicy morsel down there. Okay, I'm almost done. I would strongly urge you to visit Jakob Nielsen's website. He's got and sign up for his alert. It's a weekly alert box newsletter, and you can see the address there. When you get it, it is very, 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 very brief. I mean, he really has this down to a science. He uses the very principles that he's found through research. He puts it in 2 sentences, what the article is about. And if you want to read it, you can go over there and read it. If it doesn't correspond to something that interests you, you just delete it. But when you visit his website, he has some. If you're working on your website, it's a really good place to explore because he's got a gazillion articles and based on research, like the top 10 mistakes in web design. That's a fascinating article. And I know that the parent centers are becoming very involved in working with youth. And so he has a whole section on designing teen-targeted websites where he did a lot of usability studies with teens. So you can see what's different, which I can't even imagine designing for that age group. Most violated homepage guidelines, the top usability homepage guidelines, and here's the one that we're probably going to visit next, is the state of the mobile user experience, because that is really a game changer. Anyway, that's the really fast drill on this, and if you have any questions or comments or personal experiences you'd like to share or worries about your own website, and please do put it in the chat box or unmute yourself. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment.
Right, so unmute yourself. Just
so we can see each other. And, oh, okay, let me see here. Photos, images, etc., good or limit. The research on that, Nancy, is kind of fascinating. And according to what he has found, and others as well, the people, one of the first things they look at when they come to your page or to your website is their eyes definitely go to the graphics first. And so they have a very useful function. But there are 2 types of graphics, like looks nice kind of graphic, and then they're content-carrying graphics. Like, for example, in this PowerPoint, a content-carrying graphic was the one I showed about the inverted pyramid, because then you can explain something that's important. Other graphics, like the man who had the 2 tennis balls over his eyes, is just, meant to be funny. So don't overload it with photos and images that don't carry content. But yes, definitely, I think graphics definitely look very nice on a website. Limit them. For a lot of different reasons, they can, depending on your connection and the power of your machine, take a long time to load. and it really drives people away who have slower equipment, which probably describes a lot of people in the lower, let's say, techie world. So yeah, you might want to avoid too many of them. I know on NHTSA's website, you know, in terms of 504 accessibility, you need to have an alt tag describing, you know, for screen readers and stuff such like that. So you have to make sure you include a description of what the picture is, so that someone with a screen reader knows whether it's a content-carrying image or not. They could just skip over it if it's just a picture of, you know, a kid holding a flag or something. So, any other questions? How about you see the little icon at the top of the screen with a little says status, and it's got the hand up? It's right up here. Raise your hand if you think if you find that some of this description of how people read on the web fits how you read on the web. I'm curious. Oh, man, I think I have to answer too. Yeah, it's really funny how even for people that might read differently on the web, these tips are just make common sense. I mean, headers and keywords and be brief. We're all so busy. We really need to learn how to be more brief with information so people can get on with it. Okay, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint here. We're almost done. Where was I? Here. Okay, so we have a webinar archive page for this, and you can see the address there, where once we get the recording of the webinar, we'll post it, but you can download the PowerPoint and get the connection and read the whole series of writing on the web, because frankly, there's so much information in that series. We just barely scratched the surface today, and it's really useful information. It'll change the way you write for the web forever, and I think probably as well change the way, I know it's definitely changed the way I write in print, for the very same reason, because people are in a big tear and hurry, and they want to get to the point. So we thank you very much for coming and being here today. If you have any questions, speak now. Forever hold your peace, or you can always write to one of us. And as always, your feedback is very important to help us improve and stay on target with the kind of information that you as parent centers need in your work. So please take a moment to give us some feedback, including other topics that you would love to hear more information on. Indira, did you put the link in the chat box?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. And there was a comment or a question actually from Dee.
Okay.
Dee says, so this applies not only to websites but also internet newsletters?
Yeah, I think so. Internet newsletters, yeah, I think so. If I had to reflect upon how we've handled it at CPIR, we did, and only you can say whether or not it has been useful and helpful, is that the newsletter is divided into sections. They're clearly marked as to what kind of information it has there. And then there is some kind of a header, like about the resource. So if you're interested in something in Spanish and it mentions that, your eye might go to it. And then the description is very brief. So it allows you to move on and see what might be pertinent to you without having to plow through a lot of text. I think that's very helpful, not having to plow through a lot of text. Yes, we will be archiving, Chad, this webinar, so you can watch it again. And I would just thank you very much. That's good. And I would really urge you to read the Writing for the Web, which will have a lot more information in it, and links to other helpful things. Okay, we have finished early. This is the first. 10 big minutes. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it.